Well, we continue with the broadcast this morning, and we are now focusing on the shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz. And Salman Khan, who is the chairperson of the South African Kashmir Action Group, has written quite a detailed piece or calling or talking about brinkmanship in the Strait of Hormuz, U.S. strategy, regional resistance, and the limits of power. Now, this is quite comprehensive. I know we won't be able to get a chance to go through the entire document. It is a 17-page document, but just to focus on some of the key issues, some of the critical issues that are highlighted on this piece that has been written. Salman Khan, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jummah Mubarak to you.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brother Inayat Bhai, and to the rest of all the team at the Star Media. And today I'm just representing the not this Kashmiri Action Group, but rather the providing an independent geopolitical the views.
Yes, now, obviously I've had a look at this piece. It's quite detailed. As I mentioned, we won't be able to go through all the detail that is in there, but there's a lot of detail in here. But let's just talk about some of the highlights, some of the most important issues, because, you speak about a number of issues. You speak about brinkmanship, you speak about U.S. strategy, you speak about resistance, and obviously you've provided a lot of historical context as far as the Strait of Hormuz is concerned, and where we are at this point in time, this whole showdown that is taking place, because this is absolutely important. This is a very, very critical waterway that is impacting globally, Salman.
Yes, Jazakallah for having me. In Azai, there are a number of critical issues. The Strait of Hormuz is historically, for thousands of the years, has always been a very, very important trade route. And if you look at the recent history, 40 years ago, when the doctrine of Brezhnev, the Russian president, and he invaded Afghanistan under the pretext that there was a civil war. It was not just merely moving an American get so interested to assist, the Afghanistan and Pakistan to block, any further invasion. Actually, the whole en route, they were en route. The Russians was en route from the Afghanistan, Kabul, all the way to Gwadar Post, which is Pakistani southern post, and then from there to draw the parallel where Americans are actually blocking or calling the piracy. That was their plan 40 years ago. So Americans are a new kid on the block. Now, two things very important. One, it has been underplayed. I mean, it is, look, the whole of the world is talking, whole of the world is desperately looking to get the normalization in the area. It is not the 20% of the oil, petroleum, and gas power. It is over 50 to 60% of the oil. Because if you look at the rim of the bottleneck of the Shuttle Arab or Strait of Hormuz, you see all the top 80% of the oil producing countries are in that actually, the rim. And from there, the most, the world energy resources passes through. So what happened is, if you look at what happened in the last, the 40 years of the war, 40 days of the war, American in Israel actually was not effective at all. They didn't achieve what they were set to achieve. They think it is another Venezuela. We will go. We shoot the religious leader, and then we will take over Iran, and then from there we will be able to, just set our reach. And then of course there was idea was also to do what American is doing now, creating the second line. But since they have completely humiliated and beaten up into the theater, Iran is still capable of launching the attacks and is still successfully defending its territory. Now, American is looking for some sort of a scapegoat, and what they're creating the secondary line of actually the blockade. It is illegal because Iran is a natural border. What is protecting what is always been there. Iran never have demand any levies, never. And today, until today, the Strait of Hormuz, for our listener, Iran has not blocked it. Iran blocked it only for the US and Israeli tankers because they were the aggressor and they were the one belligerent to attack Iran. So now the situation is that Iranians want a peace and the Americans looking for some sort of a what call it a glorified exit from the war by saying that we are victorious and the Iranians are on the knees. And Iranians saying we're not on the knees. We are protecting our the borders, sovereignty. Secondly, is the Strait of Hormuz. One side of the Strait of Hormuz, what they control, it is not being blocked, and Americans are creating what they call it their own blockade for any ship that passes by. but I don't think so. They are too successful. The news coming like for the last 24 hours that America is softening up and Iran is standing up to its argument and its demands that they do not want any future wars. They need a guarantee, and also they must continue their peaceful uranium enrichment plan. And the Americans are on a back foot in our mind.
Well, certainly, Salman, and also I think when one looks at right across the entire world, and I know this piece, and we unfortunately we're not going to have too much time to delve into all the detail. You speak about the history and the struggle for the Strait of Hormuz, and there's a lot of historical context to what has actually taken place as well. And you speak about Portuguese dominance, you speak about English and Persian interventions. Then we're looking at this struggle that has actually continued for a very, very long time. And we've seen many events that have taken place, the Russian invasion of Afghanistan, all of this at the end of the day, as some sort of link to what is actually happening. But the most critical issue at this point in time is we are now in 2026. And clearly, this American involvement has given this another dimension in terms of the escalation and particularly with regard to control. And I think you articulate this very, very well in this piece in terms of America and what 2026 actually means and the attack on Iran, what it actually means for the Strait of Hormuz.
Thank you. Look, the most critical part of this whole thing is there is a one whole section that I actually dedicated research and presented to you. There is a two-one. One is definitely the Russian invasion of Afghanistan, what was their means and what they wanted to do, 40 years ago. And now the second part is that I have digged deep into an American foreign policy for the last 100 years. I can document it word by word that has been underpinned by their energy needs. And of course, it's become more prevalent. I mean, look at the Unocal and in Aramco, the involvement in the drilling of the oil rigs and all these things from the 60s onward. And then after the blockade of the oil by the Shah Faisal, how desperate Americans become to see that, like, look, without oil, our industrial complex will not move, our military power will become weakened. So they always have, why they have caused so many wars in Middle East, including in Afghanistan, Iraq, and many other places, because they are very vulnerable onto the oil. Okay, America, one thing the world has not paid attention to, since the Gulf War 1 and 2, the Iraq was completely dismantled. There was no protection. There was no defense. So American and the Allied forces collectively looted for the last 27 years all the oil from the Iraq unabated, and that's why America has a 50 to 60 year of the oil reserve. They can go without getting back. They cannot control the oil price, but just having the reserve. So America actually relied its growth or its power through the well supply, and they have to secure. And that is their foreign policy. Every president of the USA, their foreign policy always evolves. How do we make sure that we protect the good supply and uninterrupted supply of the oil? And that's the only thing it comes always into their radar, that Iran is sitting on a critical corner, as they've been doing with the sanction. They've been creating the base, in what we call it in a military term, encirclement theory. They created so many bases, but none of them come to wail when the war started and America ran to defend Israel, because the striking capabilities of the Iran was so powerful that they could not actually leave Israel, unprotected. So they left these Saudis, those who spent so much money, and then they run to protect Israel, because otherwise Iran could have definitely liberated Israel without American help. Now the actor which is actually emerged, Pakistan, tiny nation, small, always been hostile. The border with India, have fought 4 wars, and Pakistan is playing a pivotal role now to bring the peace and make sure, because Pakistan share a long border with Iran and Afghanistan, so it is in the best interest of the regional peace, and Pakistan, of course, internal stability, that the peace must prevail. And I think the world needs to look into that who is the aggressor. Iran is definitely protecting the Shuttle Arab or its own territory. Iran is not invading any maritime territories or anything else. They are not the aggressor. Where is the problem is the America need to actually wind up its operation and come to some sort of agreement and leave. I mean, they are not the natural protector of the oil supply. They are, American president say himself that we are the pirate and it is a very profitable piracy is happening. So I think the world needs to pay attention. And today is the Juma. Let's make the solemn the du'as to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that the peace must return to the places like Iran, Palestine, Pakistan, and Iraq, Iran, everywhere, including the Kashmir. And hopefully things will change. Otherwise, it will be another lockdown because the petroleum have a power to choke us to the level that the food supplies to the aircraft, everything will become standstill.
Well, Salman, Jazakallah khairan so much for that. I just wish you had a lot more time, but you put the entire discussion in context as well. You summarized it quite well. So, all the best to you, my brother. Please take care and have yourself a wonderful Jummah as well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salman Khan, chairperson of the South African Kashmir Action Group, with us this morning. Quick break. We come back. It's Jummah and it's time for Jummah Inspirations.